Hello to all your wonderful innies and outies out there, and welcome to today's new Severance video. We are back with our weekly theory video where I discuss some of the biggest talking points after the most recent episode of Severance, and this being the last one of these type of dedicated videos before the season 2 finale, which is crazy to say, and it's just crazy how fast the season has gone by. Now, episode 9 set the stage for so many possibilities, but can we just take a moment to replay my favorite line from episode 9?
Devour feculence. It means eat shit, Mr. Drummond.
Now in today's video, we'll be discussing Cold Harbor, we'll be talking about Jame Eagan's secrets, and also taking a look at some of the scenes from the trailer that we haven't seen in the show quite yet, and so much more. We got a lot to discuss in today's video, so let's put on our swimsuits and go for a swim in the murky waters of Lumon, and let's discuss some crazy theories after watching episode 9 of season 2 of Severance. Now let's talk about Mr. Milchick, who got the week off last week, but he made sure to come back in this episode in a very major way for both good and possibly bad reasons. Now starting with the good, and for those that are new to the channel, I have been rooting for the redemption arc for Seth all season long, but damn, he makes it so hard to root for him at times. But I did really enjoy seeing him speaking to Drummond in the way that he did, especially with the idea of him pushing back against Lumon in that way as well. Now the Lumon part for me was while on the phone with Audi Mark, he could have kept being persistent on getting his location, but he wasn't. Instead, he allowed Mark to take the day for himself, and he even got a little emotional on the phone while doing so, which in my eyes is huge for the character because Milchick knows just how important the day was, with it being the day that Cold Harbor was expected to be completed. But again, he allowed Mark to do his thing and didn't even tell anyone about the conversation, even though I'm pretty sure the phone calls at Lumon are probably most likely recorded. So to me, that was definitely a sign for the good that Milchick is eventually making that turn against Lumon. Now, speaking to the potentially bad side of Milchick from the previous episode, and that's him getting the last laugh, if you want to call it that, with him and Mrs. Wong and having her leave before finishing the quarter. Now, of course, her fellowship was going to end and she was going to leave inevitably, but it seemed Milchick and her unfriendly relationship and back and forth throughout the season was really the main reason for her early departure, but maybe he did it for a good reason. Now, Mr. Jame Eagan will be the centerpiece of this video later, but maybe Mr. Milchick let her go early because he was protecting her from the arrival of the man who seems to have a label for women he takes interest in, and those women being called one of James. So did Milchick not want to risk the chance of him and Miss Wong crossing paths? And he sent her to the furthest place away from Kira to assure her safety. Or again, he really didn't like Mrs. Wong, who at the end of the day we find out was just a kid who unfortunately got wrapped into the Kira way of thinking or was forced on her by her parents, similarly to Sissy and Harmony. So for the finale, will we see Mr. Milchick make an even bigger surprise move and help out Mark or Helly by making sure Cold Harbor isn't completed, or will he sit by and watch and be complicit by following orders from his superiors and Lumon? Now let's make a pivot and talk about some of the scenes and the shots from the various promotions and trailers of the show that we haven't seen, and let's speculate on what they could mean for the finale. Now, for those that have avoided any and all trailers and promotions of this show, this is a spoiler warning to skip this part of the video and to skip on to the next topic, and I'll have time codes in the description of this video to do so.
Mark, there'll be no honeymoon ending for you.
So that was Cobell talking to Mark saying there will be no honeymoon for you. Now, of course, this seems to be taking place in the birthing cabin that we last saw them in, but I don't think she's talking to Audi Mark in this scene and referring to a honeymoon between him and Gemma, but instead, remember this is likely any Mark that she's referring to in this scene, and I believe she's talking about him and Helly not seeing each other again, reason being because she'll be a part of Cold Harbor. More on that a little bit later in this video. Now here we see Gretchen and Dylan sharing a kiss, but the question is, which Dylan is this? Now one would assume that this is Audi, Dylan, and Gretchen coming to an understanding and him forgiving her for what happened between her and his Annie Dylan, but what if there's another OTC situation going on? Maybe Milchick or Helly or Helena had a hand in switching it on this time around, and Dylan gets a chance to live on the outside world with Gretchen and the kids. But hell, let's throw this out there. What if we end the season in reverse from season 1, and we end with the innies replacing their outies' lives, and Innie Dylan gets to experience time with his family for an extended period of time?
They give us half a life and think we won't fight for it.
Now that was audio from Helly, but last we saw her, she was alone with Jame Eagan, and if my theory comes to fruition, Helly won't be making any speeches anytime soon. But let's just assume Jame Eagan allows Helly to come back to work from the last time we saw them, and that speech is Helly speaking to Mark and or Dylan, because we don't know if his outie will approve his resignation, so Helly gives his last speech of hurrah to fight back, and we assume this is Helly and Mark holding hands, and maybe going to find Miss Casey together as they head down to the testing room floor, which may explain this shot here. The look here by Mark could be outie Mark on the severed floor for the first time, and maybe the reintegration has been fully completed. Or this is Innie Mark coming back to work after outie Mark promised Milchick that he would return the following day. Now here we see this creepy shot of Kira Egan's doll head turning and looking like a scene straight out of Child's Play. Now, I'm not entirely sure what the deal is with the head turn in this doll, but we have this even creepier shot of Jame Eagan at a desk looking at a computer. Now, my best guess is that this is similar to the MDR Observers, where we see him having a dedicated computer that's set to watch Helly at all times, which adds even more context to this line here.
My Helly.
Could it be that he's actually obsessed with Helly? Now, here we see Mr. Drummond slamming Mark against a wall. Could it be that Mark is fully reintegrated, or is Innie Mark refusing to complete the Cold Harbor file? And after being told in last week's episode to eat some doo-doo, and now Mark not listening to what he's being told, we're watching Drummond crashing out. Now here we see the scary numbers being put into a bin, and it appears that the bins are all at 100%, so I would guess this is maybe Cold Harbor finally being completed with or without Mark's help. Now chances are Innie Mark does complete the file, because I believe he's going to have to choose between Helly or Miss Casey, not necessarily Gemma, because remember, while Innie Mark did experience all the life experiences that Gemma and outie Mark went through in episode 7, those were just memories. Innie Mark has spent way more time and cares way more about Helly than he does Miss Casey and or Gemma. Now that was the end of the remaining footage that we haven't seen in the show quite yet, so let me know in the comments below, what do you all think about the footage, and what do you all think is happening in those scenes, and what do you think will come from those scenes in the finale? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Now let's get into my thoughts and theories based on what we learned after episode 9. Let's talk about potentially saying goodbye to Irving for now. Is Irving really gone for good? No. Now, while we might not see him in the finale, I don't think this is the last time we're ever going to see the character again, because if and when season 3 is officially announced, I'm going to bet every dollar, every cent I have that he will be part of the main cast come season 3. Now, as far as seeing him on the train going God knows where, I think there's probably like a 95% chance that we don't see Irving in the actual finale, but for that 5% chance, I believe we might see him at like the tail end of the episode where everything has hit the fan. We're going to get like, let's say it's a post-credit scene, and we're going to see a scene where he arrives to his destination. Maybe we see whoever he was on the phone with picks him up, even though I think my best guess was I thought that he was maybe leaving voicemails to Petey because he doesn't know Petey died. Now also on the topic of Irv, let's talk about Bert for a second, and I want to share this comment by Emily who says, Bert picked up Gemma. I think that's an excellent observation and could 100% be true. Now Gemma will be addressed later in this video, but I do wonder if we'll get a flashback of the night of the accident and boom, we'll see Bert picking her up and dropping her off at Lumon. Now bringing it back to the characters we may have to say goodbye to, let's talk about Dylan. Now obviously for my trailer breakdown portion of this video, it appears that we're going to see some version of Dylan, but the question is, will we see any Dylan again? Now, as I stated earlier, we don't know if outie Dylan will accept or reject the resignation, but if he does reject it, we'll be seeing Innie Dylan again. And my guess is that he won't accept the resignation because we already know that he has a hard time keeping a job. I'm referring to outie Dylan at this point. And I would think that he wants to prove to himself and to his family that he can hold a job, even if it means he has to work side by side essentially with the man that his wife cheated on him with. Now, this next portion of the video here is going to be a very soft spot for me. It's going to be very difficult for me to say this because I'm such a fan of this character, but I can't help but to get this feeling that something weird is going on with Devon. Look, the question of who can be trusted in the show to some extent goes back to all the way to season 1 for me, but the Devon of it all in particularly. This season, my suspicion started with her conveniently popping up at Mark's house the night he was getting fully reintegrated, or he was supposed to get fully reintegrated, and she just happened to pop up in episode 6 at the end. Now, the next moment for me, while it may be proven to be the right decision, but the fact that she kept Cobell's number in her phone after everything that happened in season 1, and she felt so confident that she would want to help Mark in episode 7 was definitely sus. Now, back to episode 9, this scene here to me was extremely sus.
Do you remember the last thing that you said to me?
Now, I think the framing and the setup is mainly from the direction of the scene. Like, they really were feeling themselves in this scene here, and they were obviously referring and mirroring the final moments of episode 9 of the season 1 finale. But again, I just felt the look she gave, the that she says in the scene, and also looking at Cobell like a Bond villain, felt like maybe Devon was in cahoots with Cobell and or Lumon in general. So how do you all feel about Devon's behavior this season? And please share with me if you share similar feelings of her possibly being a secret Lumon spy. Now to the main event, and that's what does Jame Eagan want with Helly, and what will Cold Harbor be proven to be? Now, I've spoken about this topic in my Cold Harbor theory video after episode 7, and I even talked about this in my latest breakdown of episode 9, but long story short, I believe Gemma and Helly/Helena will be key subjects for Cold Harbor. I am very much in the camp that after their exchange at the end of the most recent episode, Jame Eagan will have Helly taken down to the testing room floor to prep her for the Cold Harbor experiment. I believe the ultimate test of Cold Harbor is to see if one's innie can prevent one's outie from dying. Again, there's more detail in those videos that I mentioned earlier and in my breakdown of episode 7, but the idea of seeing Gemma having at least 6 different innies and them testing those innies in stressful situations to see if their outie remembers goes into the questioning of this.
If you were caught in a mudslide, would you be more afraid of suffocating or drowning? Drowning.
Now, from Gemma being questioned about drowning to seeing Helena being drowned in episode 4 by Irv, and then obviously in episode 9 we open with Helena practicing swimming in a pool. I believe we will see Cold Harbor having both Gemma and Helly and Helena being drowned to see if their innies will die, but their outies will be okay because they won't remember the experience of dying. Now, to that point, could we see Helena not making it, or Gemma not making it, but their innie survive, or one of their innies survive, which goes back to the line in episode 9 when Cobell said, if you already completed the file,
She's already dead.
or bringing it back to Helly, which I actually think Jame Eagan prefers Helly over his own daughter Helena, because again, remember this line. Does he want to replace his daughter Helena with Helly? And I'm just want to throw this out there, and that's this comment from Lisa. As they said, the Eagan house has a lot of blue. Blue is usually the color for innies. Could Helena be an innie herself? Could she have multiple innies like Gemma does? We never see or hear of her mother. There's definitely more going on with the character than we know so far. Now, personally, I think the show has proven us enough times so far throughout the series that Helly is indeed Helena's innie, but the idea that Helena has multiple innies in her like Gemma, and going back to what I mentioned earlier with her father wanting like some other version of his daughter, because it's been shown several times that he appears to look at Helena as a disappointment. Now, getting to one of my last points here, and I've alluded to James' creepy behavior earlier when discussing Miss Wong, but let's talk more about this scene here.
She's one of James. No one's to know.
It's one of James. It seems, but all confirmed, that Helena isn't James' only child. If true, how many kids does he have, and are they workers of Lumon and or test subjects of Lumon? Again, if this is to believe that he's fathered however many children, where are the mothers? And did he have non-consensual sex with these women, or are they pure believers and they just agreed to having his offspring? However you want to slice this up, there's no denying that Jame Eagan is an extremely unpleasant, weird, and creepy dude. Now, last but not least, I doubt that we're going to get every single question answered in the finale, which, by the way, is going to be 76 minutes long, which is awesome. But I'm going to end this video with throwing out some questions, I should say unanswered questions, before the season 2 finale, starting with this. This goes all the way back to season 1, but what's the deal with Ragabi? Now, this also goes back to season 1, but how does Audi Irv know about the testing floor elevator? Also, to that point, what exactly was Irv investigating? Another season 1 question, what is the revolving mentioned by Jame Eagan? Another big question from season 1 is, what's the deal with the goats and also the department that we saw in season 2 with the goat people? Now, another big question I've had since season 1 is who or what is the board? Now, bringing it back to Gemma of it all, did Gemma volunteer to go to the testing floor? Does she know that Mark believes that she's dead? Now, one of the questions I had from this season in episode 1, who exactly was looking at Mark in this scene here? Speaking of season 2, going to episode 4, what were those shadow people? Were they goats? Were they clones? Were they animatronics? And lastly, will we ever get another music dance experience? And will we ever learn of the origins and the backstory of the Waffle Party? I think that is a great place to end this week's theory video. So with all that said, share your thoughts about everything we discussed in this video, and please keep sharing your incredibly creative and detailed theories in the comments below for more videos just like this. Now, if you all haven't already, go check out my breakdown of episode 9, where we went a little bit more in detail about all the major things that shook down in the penultimate episode. Now, before we wrap this thing up, man, I cannot wait for the 76-minute long finale, so I'll see you all soon. If this is your first time here, thank you for watching this video. Go check out some of my other Severance videos, and if you like what you see, consider subscribing to the channel today. If you all enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, share this video, and if you want to take the support even further, consider joining the channel memberships, which can be found in the description of this video. Remember, you all are awesome, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next video, and remember,
Growth takes time, but happy workers bloom more quickly. To quote Lumon's founder,
"The mouth which is busy smiling cannot bite."